and welcome back to How Music is Made. I'm confirming that the audio is going through correctly, and yes, it is. So perfect. Yes, welcome back to the show. We're gonna keep rocking. We're gonna keep mixing the track that we started off several weeks ago. And while we do so, I'm gonna be explaining every single one of my moves. I'm gonna be explaining the principles, the concepts, the ideas behind mixing music, and well, of course, everything done under the auspices of me actually working on actual music while I do the moves. So feel free to ask as many questions as you wish, as you want, and of course try to keep them related to the topic, of course. So with that being said, let's get into it. First and foremost, welcome back to the digital audio workstation we're using. This is called Luna, and it's a fantastic piece of software. It's used for many other uses other than just mixing music. For example, let me make sure that it's big enough for it to cover the entirety of the... Perfect. Yeah, this software is used for many things, everything related to audio. This is a recent release. Luna has been around for not that long, and it's basically used for recording, mixing, producing, and composing music, and even mastering if you want to go down that rabbit hole. But where I think it excels is at mixing music. It does it in a very fantastic, awesome way, because it's very similar to the workflow you will find on a console. Now, let me give you a brief introduction to this thing as well, because I'm thinking, or I'm trying to approach this from the perspective of someone who might not be familiar with this kind of software. These are the channels. Each of them, as you can tell, one of them is called kick, snare, tom, so on and so forth. Okay, those guys contains audio, which is found over here. These are known as audio regions, and they are color coded because that's how I like to look at my mixes. I use colors to detect or to position my instruments and the sounds that I'm going to be working with. And this section over here is the mixer, and this might look more familiar to you if you have ever been to a party and you end up being the sad soul that has to deal with the sound. And well, I'm going to press play because I've been speaking for way too long. We're going to be analyzing the mix as it is right now, and then we're going to discuss what to do with it once this is over. Okay, so here we go. And wait a second, there's many problems with this audio wise. Over here, the interface. Give me a second. It's gonna be fixed soon. Okay, now we got that one, and now I'm gonna get the next one. Don't know what happened to the audio, because otherwise, if I press play, you won't hear anything. Give me a second. My fucking voice, damn it! Fuck! Hey! Okay, it seems that now it's working correctly. Don't know what happened. The software that runs the audio decided to change everything, but now if I press play, everything should be going according to plan. Let's see. Okay, it's sounding in a way. Right now, my brain is kind of distracted because for whatever reason, the mix it's a mess. Not the mix, the output that you're getting on your end. Because right now my voice is sounding on the left. I can clearly see that. But if it's off, now it should be. Now it's still. Give me a second. I'm going. I'll be back. Give me a break. Hey. Okay, I think I got it running. The thing is that there is something very funky going on. Let me show you. Right now, the software is routing out correctly my voice, but usually, as soon as I press play, my voice will stop thanks to the use of this plugin. This, for those of you who don't know what a plugin is, it's a little piece of software we use in mixing or music production in general to control and manipulate the sound of the instruments that we're working on. And we're going to be using them throughout the entirety of this particular session. I use this guy to mute my voice because you can see that it's reacting to my voice as soon as I speak. And it's fantastic. It usually works beautifully. The thing is this. If I press play, chances are that my microphone will engage as soon as I press play. Well, it's gonna keep up, it's gonna stay open. Let me try it. It sounds like a Dolber, right? With Dolber. Yeah, I can see. Let me check. I'm gonna try my headphones. Okay, let me see. Right now, yeah, I can't hear the Dolber thing. Let's fix this together, guys. I'm gonna check what's going on with the audio interface. And for this, I'm gonna get rid of the headphones because I can hear my voice double. So it's very annoying. Okay, this is the control for my interface. Let me check what's going on. Because right now my voice should be going through. Let's check first and foremost. Hey, okay, this is 19 and 20. This is the actual output. The thing is that we're getting a double somewhere. There is some form of actual double that is happening. That is applied to my voice as well. I can hear it. Let me change this thing because I even think that the problem is here it is. Now it's correct, right? Now it's correct. Yes. I'm gonna press play once again. If everything goes according to the plan, now we can keep with the show. It worked.
Of course!
Okay, let me explain what happened. Okay, it's a very dumb but kind of important thing to discuss. Let me show you. It's not visible to you, but whatever. The thing is that for whatever reason, my device that I use for the controls of the music, the output that you hear on your end, and also what I hear over here in the studio, it's controlled by a device that is called an audio interface or a converter, depending on who you ask. And just Rick, sorry, I didn't say hi to you as well, man. But yes, Manhattan is a great song. Yeah, now everything's working correctly. So let's get into the show. Let me just finish off explaining what happened. The thing is that it has plenty of inputs and outputs. It's actually quite a comprehensive device. It's very, very powerful. The brand is Antelope Audio. It's a fantastic European brand. I don't remember. I think it's from Poland. It's a great, great brand. Not necessarily cheap, but it's far from being stupidly expensive. It's actually very well priced. And it's an amazing device. The thing is that the software I use for live streaming is called Ecamm Live. It's a fantastic piece of software as well. The thing is that there was an update earlier in the morning, and it seems that it changed the controls of my audio coming into the software. And it was all over the place, but now it's fixed. Excellent. Okay, so now into the mix, finally. And sorry for this kind of stupid moment. I always make sure that everything is working fine, and it was working fine. Something happened as soon as I began live streaming. Bulgaria, thank you. I knew that it was in Eastern Europe. Thank you. Okay, now, what do we got so far? The mix itself, to my ears, is not excellent, but it's far from terrible. But there's plenty of bass. The bass is way too loud. So the first thing I'm going to do is first make sure that the sound of my bass is sitting correctly. I'm going to press play, but let's go to a more busier section. Let me see. Over here, maybe here, because in here we can see that we got the synthesizer, the guitars, bass, and the entirety of the drum kit engaged. It's a very important thing to keep track of, because this allows us to use the busier part of the mix, the one that contains the most or the biggest amount of elements not clashing, but interacting rather at the same time. So let's listen to it. Please pay close attention to the relationship between the volume of the different elements, particularly the bass. Tell me which one, if the bass feels way too close. Here we go. It's loud. I can hear everything. The thing is that I feel the kick drum being behind the bass, and that's a problem because both of them should play together nicely. I always like to remind them being a happily married couple. Okay. Why? Because I don't know. That's the way my stupid brain likes to understand music, but. A kick drum and a bass are usually so close together that, and I use the analogy of the marriage because they have to understand each other, they have to know what the other guy is doing, while at the same time respecting their space, understanding their roles, and never trying to do what they're not supposed to do in their relationship. I think it makes sense. Okay, so in a perfect world, that's what I think a marriage should be. I think. I'm not married, by the way, but it's just my wild guess. So in this case, I think we got the bass overpowering the sound of the kick. So I'm gonna go straight to the mixer, and let's find my bass. Here it is. A good way, or at least my recommendation, or the way I like to do this kind of things, is by going straight to the bass, or in this case the bass, and then dock it all the way down, taking it all the way down, like this. And then I'm gonna press play, and while the track's playing, we're gonna play around with this bad boy, okay? Trying to find the sweet spot. And this is a good moment for you, if you have the means to turn your mix into stereo. I know that's a little bit more nerdier sounding, or into mono, do it, because that's what I'm gonna do. Wait a second. Could you see that? This is not correct. Why? Let me show you. I think I know. Yes, I knew it. Thank God. Look, I printed before going live the starting point for this mix, so we're gonna be able to compare it to what we got. That's why as soon as I dug down the volume of the bass, nothing happened with the bass. Now it will. Look. Okay, it sounds a little bit better, but I'm not fully convinced. Let's do it again. Okay, that to my ears is starting to sound better. Why? Because we're getting a much more present bass sound without being overbearingly loud, leaving up or opening up a space for the rest of the mix. We got a puncher sounding kick without having it being feel kind of buried beneath the low end coming out of the drums of the bass. Sorry. Now, I think we still have a little bit of a cloud covering some of the mix itself. So it's one of those moments in which I think I could get away with doing a little bit of equalization. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go to my mixer again, but I'm gonna be opening up this guy. This is the equalizer that we're using to affect the entirety of the mix. If you recall previous sessions, we actually work with this guy in particular to add, to simply embellish a little bit the mix itself. As it is right now, it's just doing a little bit of low end, making a little bit puncher, making the mix a little bit punchier, a little bit more energetic sounding. But now, since we're starting to find a much better balance for the entirety of the instrumentation, I feel that the sound of the mix is a little bit like this, don't you think? A little bit muffled. That's due to many things, but the first approach to this, or the first solution for this problem that I think of at this point, is taking a look at the equalizer that is affecting the entirety of the mix. On equalizer, a good way to understand the concept of an equalizer is this. An equalizer is basically speaking a volume controller, but it's that affects frequencies rather than the entirety of the sound. Let me explain. If we go to the equalizer over here, and we decide to push high, what we're going to do, and according to this number, we're going to be affecting 12,500 hertz, allegedly. And when we push it, we're going to increase the volume of that particular section of the equalizer. Make sense? Let me do it in a different way, because I think I got a better example. I'm going to use a much more complex EQ, but ignore the EQ itself. We're going to just use it for the sake of conversation. This guy is fantastic. It's a monstrosity. It's called the split EQ. This guy, okay? But it's going to be great for this explanation. This area over here is the one that controls the highs, okay? If I push it higher, we're going to increase the volume, the output of this section, and that section alone. If I go to this one and I lock it down or push it downwards, we're making this section less loud, while the area over here, the highs, is louder. That's what an equalizer does in very simple terms. Yeah, actually, that's what it does. The thing is that equalization is very addictive because since you can you can distort or change the sound so dramatically with some pushes, you start to be very much driven to push it upwards and downwards. And here's something very important. If you're a music enthusiast, if you're a music fan, not a mixing engineer, what you do with your equalizer is changing the sound of the output of your device. Let's say you're playing music from your phone or your app, or blasting some good speakers set with your streaming device. What you do with that, with equalizer, is you're gonna change the sound hitting the speakers, and that's the only thing you're changing. What I will do with this is actually changing the sound before hitting the speakers. And not even hearing the speakers, it's before hitting the printing of the file that you will hear on your end. Does that make sense? Please tell me if it didn't, because this is some of the things that are kind of difficult to explain, but once you get it, you will understand easily. So, just for sake of conversation and for sake of exploration, and also for learning purposes, let's play around with this equalizer with a little bit of not dams given. Okay, we're gonna be pushing the highs, we're gonna push the treble and the mid highs just to see what it does. For the time being, I'm gonna just stick to this. Okay, the highs, and let's see what we get, because right now I feel my mix a little bit like this. What do you think? It's dramatic, right? The changes were quite in your face. I could clearly hear the differences, and some of them I liked, some of them I felt that they were a little bit too much. Which one were the ones that I felt that were a little bit too much? You saw that while the track was playing, I pushed it or started off this bad boy at number 3. When I was working with 3, it was working, but when certain cymbals began playing, they became a little bit too loud, a little bit too in the nose, a little bit too annoying, because we're actually affecting the frequencies, the section or the fundamentals. I will elaborate on that a little bit more, of the sound coming out of the cymbals. Now, what on earth does fundamental stands for? As I have said before, every sound in the universe is comprised of frequencies, because it's actually kinetic energy. I'm gonna super simplify it, but it's kinetic energy moving across a medium. Okay, let's say in this case air, because that's what we use to interact with each other, because we're not aquatic animals yet. That's the reason why in space nobody can hear you scream, actually, because there is no medium for the sound of your voice to be propelled. It's empty. It's the vacuum of space, right? So, since we're dealing with those frequencies, each sound produced in the universe is gonna be exciting or pushing those frequencies upward or downwards, because it's going up and down. You have seen the sine waves. Okay, each sound is gonna have a particular set of frequencies that are the ones that are the core of the sound that is produced. For example, my voice have a particular set of frequencies that are the ones that produces the sound of my voice and makes it unique. The same applies to you. The same applies to the sound of the music we're working on and the instruments that we're working on. The same applies to the instruments that we're working on. And since I'm pushing these highs, which is somewhere around 12,500 hertz, it seems that the cymbals, the crash and the hi-hats, particularly hi-hats, are living in this area. See what happens if I do the opposite. Got me, right? We got a little bit of extra guitars as well, because some of the elements are part of the guitars playing on the sides, the chords. Those guitars are kind of living close to the cymbals, but also living close to this area in which this equalizer is affecting the sound coming out of the mix we're working on. Then treble. I actually liked what I did with this one, because you'll see that I just pushed it to 1. Because since it's hitting 5,000 hertz, I can tell you from experience that that's where most of, well, not most, but a good chunk of the guitar tone that we hear is going to be found. And also a good chunk of the cymbals as well, and a good chunk of the snare. See what happens if I knock it down. But there it sounds musical to me. But now with these changes, I feel that the guitars, the ones playing on the rhythm, the chords, the beautiful chords on the sides, are a little bit too loud, because we excite them. And remember, since we're equalizing, an equalizer is a volume controller based on frequencies. Since I increased the output of those frequencies, we're gonna make everything that is part of that frequency range louder. I know it's kind of complex from that perspective, but that's what we do here. We like complex shit. But coming back to this thing, because I have to show you something else. You'll see me playing with this gain. This is for me to make sure that I'm not being fooled by volume while I play around with the equalizer. Why? Because you were saying, dude, what does gain controls? The output of everything I did. So you might be saying, what's the point of increasing the volume of these guys if you're gonna decrease the volume of everything? That's a great question. I'm glad that you didn't ask. Let me explain. The thing that I mentioned during the music analysis that we do in this channel about the dynamic range thing and how it is very important for music to have that moment of loudness and quieter sections for the music to feel engaging, natural sounding, and lively. It's due to the fact that we understand volume as more exciting, and we usually associate exciting music with better sounding music. Since we're mixing and we're critically analyzing the stuff we're working on and making sure that we're not just playing games with our head, we need to always be conscious that every move we do, every step we take, every breath we take, every move we make, he'll be watching us. No, that was the police reference, by the way. No, everything we do will have to be done under the auspices of understanding that we can be fooled by our own moves. So it's very important for any mixing engineer to always keep track of volume. Since I increased a set amount of dBs, I will decrease a set amount of dBs, and then we'll use this guy to bypass, which stands for removing the sound of the equalizer while the track's playing, allowing me to make sure that everything is still in the same volume or very close in proximity. And what I hear, the difference what I hear is actually what the equalizer did. Make sense? I hope it does. And truly believe me when I tell you that that's the core. If you are an aspiring mixing engineer, please make friends with that idea and reason. Here we go. Okay, so I like it, but now we got a much more exciting and much more louder sounding guitars. I'm gonna go back now to my guitars. Let me remove this guy. We're not gonna use it for, at least for now. And now we're gonna be working with these guitars. The same as I did before. Since I like, here now is saying, we all love to be fooled by volume. Yes, that's a fact, man. Because it's like, yeah, keep rocking, push it, and we simply get mesmerized by the excitement coming from the speakers, and we lose track of what we're doing. So please always keep track of this concept if you're daring to get into this realm. Now, the guitars. They are a bit too loud. The green guitars. Let me make sure that they are fully visible on your end. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Perfect. I'm gonna dog them down on its entirety because that's how I am. I like to play hardball, and then I'm gonna bring them back, but now using my reference point. We will find sweet spot. Here we go. That sounds better, right? At least a little bit more balanced. The thing is this. Now I feel the snare being super in your face, don't you think? Because the snare is kind of like... While I find the kick and the snare and the bass working nicely, we finally got that married couple going, I feel that the snare is like just crashing in a way that is a little bit too in your face. Let's analyze it first. Since we're dealing with a big sounding snare, a big sounding drum kit, we got plenty of microphones involved in this production. So we got the sound of the snare by its own, sounds like this. Let me take it to a place in which the snare is actually playing. Okay. Not bad, not too shabby. The thing is that we also got the snare coming from this guy. That sounds much more lively. And then this other guy. These two guys are the ones that are taking or are capturing the entirety of the drum kit. And I also think we got another one. Let me find it. Yes, how could I forget the stereo room? You'll see that we got this huge sounding drum kit out of these microphones. And the snare is super loud in the context of the entirety of the mix. Let's try by making the snare, the microphone, or the channel that is controlling the sound of the snare only, duck it down a little bit. Let's see if we can fix it. I am not necessarily convinced because I feel that the snare is loud, but in a particular frequency range. Let me explain. Listen to the snare by its own. It's kind of dark sounding, right? It's not as bright. Elaborating a little bit more. Some of the words that we use to describe the sounds of music, regardless of you being a mixing engineer, a musician, or just a music fan, which is probably the most important part of the whole music equation now that I think about it. Without the fans, there's no music, because what's the point of producing music if nobody cares for it? With that, I'm kind of inspired tonight. No, look, if you're as a music fan, you will find, or as anybody involved in music, regardless of their position, will try to use whatever words feel the closest to describing the sound. The thing is that sound by its own nature is very difficult to simply describe, because we are not only describing the characteristics of the sound itself, we're also describing the emotional reaction we get out of the sound we hear. Don't you think? So that's why we always end up using sounds or words like bright, crunchy, ballsy, hairy, sticky, muddy, and please share yours, because everybody has their own, and sometimes I have learned many weird words that are better to describe the sound that I hear than the ones that I thought were good. Okay, so in this case, our snare by its own is dark sounding, which is not as prominent, not having that much of a prominent push in the high end. But funnily enough, if we hear the entirety of the kit, the snare is kind of bright sounding, which has plenty of, or a much more prominent presence on the high end. Since we already did our digging around, we can see that it's not coming from the snare itself. So, doing the detective work, doing the Sherlock Holmes, we can tell that it's either coming from one of these microphones that are recording the drum kit as a whole. Let's try first the overheads, stereo. This guy is extremely bright sounding. Let's see, because I think we got a little bit of some EQing on it. Let me check. So this is the plugin we're using on it. And yes, it looks similar to what I got over here. Let me show you the screen. Because I control those plugins with this bad boy, okay? I'm a sucker for this kind of environment. I love working with analog gear, as you can see. But I also know that using digital stuff is fantastic, so I like to have the best of both. So in this case, the sound of this guy is super bright sounding. I'm gonna try, as an attempt of course, because we don't know exactly what could be a solution. I'm gonna try this idea. I'm just gonna simply cut the highs until we find a better sounding mix for, or sound for this mix. We'll see. And as usual, equalization is meant to be done in context. There we go. I'm not fully sold, because when the drummer is playing the snare and the hi-hats, it's way too bright, right? But when he goes to the ride, it becomes way too obvious that I'm cutting out a good chunk of the high end of the overheads, right? Let's try it again. Look, I also hear the hi-hats to be kinda too piercy. Let's analyze this guy again. This is not the one that I think is the problem. Let's check this guy out. Clearly not. No, it's not this guy. Let me see what's going on. It might be this guy being too loud, the one that is recording the hi-hat. So let's duck it down and find a proper spot for it. Okay. So how's it going? Tarakandota. Look, at this point I think we got a problem. when I dug down the volume of the hi-hats, I like what it was doing at certain points. The issue is that we're starting to notice that there's plenty of dynamics. The distance in sound in volume between the different notes played by the hi-hats is quite dramatical. It's very big in between the notes. Sometimes it's very, very, very strong. It's very piercy. Sometimes it's very quiet. And it's giving us this kind of sense of inconsistency. Let me show you. Pay attention to that, okay? I'm going to keep the volume or the position of the hi-hats over there. Can you hear it? It's kind of annoying. This is a moment in which I would suggest using compression, which is of course what I'm going to do. We're going to be taking advantage of the compressor built in this channel strip. Compression, for those of you who are not familiar with terminology, a compressor is going to be, basically speaking, going to perceive the sound coming into the circuit, and then through the use of the circuit itself, you can tell the compressor, okay, when something is this loud, dog the volume, but just for this long, okay? Once this period of time is over, you release it, and you let it roll. But if something is lower in volume, you can increase it, allowing us to keep a much more steady sound overall. That was a very simplified description of what a compressor does, but if you understand it from that perspective, you will get it. So, going back to freaking mix. Since I find the hi-hats to be a better sounding affair on this position, but I can hear that we are losing plenty of that energy and that consistency in the sound across the entirety of the performance, I'm going to try to fix it with a compressor. So, how to understand a compressor? And I'm going to do it the same way as I did yesterday. I was explaining to one of my clients the concept of compression. So, here it is. We're going to be using this area, this controller. Let me make sure that we're actually working on the hi-hats, because this is not the hi-hats. Hi-hats, here it is. Perfect. Now you got the same as I do. If I push this guy around, this is controlling the ratio, which is telling how much the compressor is going to dog down the volume whenever the threshold we're going to be setting later is trespassed. Then we got the threshold, which is of course the moment in which the compressor will react, but only then. If we put it super low, it will do nothing because it's letting basically everything go through. But as soon as we start to push it in, we're going to start to close the gate a little bit. Not the gate, the door, because there is also a gate, but that's something else. And then the release time, which is going to control how long the sound is going to be squashed. So, in this case, I think it's going to be probably a good idea to have it squashed for a while, not that long, and we're going to be controlling the threshold to taste. I'm going to do it solo, so we can hear exactly what it's doing. Here we go. Okay, now that we did it this way, I could hear most of the different notes being played. Now let's see if it fixed the issue in the rest of the mix. Here we go. It did!
Of course!
Yeah, but it's too loud. Now I find the sound of the hi-hats to be super loud, and it's kind of getting in the way. So, once again, let's find the sweet spot for it. Nice. But don't you feel that the compressor, the hi-hats a little, yeah, it's on the right side because it's, what would be that? Right side on, is drummer's perspective, or we were discussing that as well yesterday. Left side is it was on the left. Let me check. Let me confirm, because it could be the issue we're facing. It's on the left, as it is right now, at least on my end. Yeah, it's on the left. Now I solo it, it's still on the... Let's see. Hopefully it's going the same way as it is in here over there in your end, on your end. Okay, now I feel that the sound of the hi-hat's a little bit too bright. Let's cut some of the highs. I'm gonna stick to my guns and I'm gonna keep using the SSL channel strip. The usual would be, of course, going straight to the low cut and high cut, and of course, since we're gonna try to clean up or try to control the harshness and the extra brightness coming out of the hi-hats, we're gonna do it with the high cut. The high cut is gonna be basically doing the blah 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 effect. If I overdo it, it's gonna be totally killed. Here we go. How that? It improved. It improved because it's less in our face, it's less abrasive sounding, it's less annoying, and also, since we're starting to make the sound of the whole mix work better between the different elements that are part of this mix, we're starting to get a better sound. Mixing music is a labor of following steps, step by step, and trying to stick to a vision that we set up at the beginning. If you go back to some of the earlier discussions we had in the channel, you might remember Supernova. You were there. We were discussing the style of the music being influenced by rock bands from the 80s. So the aesthetics, the decisions behind the mixing stages have been always following that particular directive. Because one of the problems that I faced while I was sorry, you were saying, oh, thank you for letting me know. It's still not working. When I used to say, okay, thank you. Tarankan is saying that there is something wrong with the Discord link. I will check it. Thank you for letting me know. I will, even before we finish the live stream, I'm going to post it here because people have been telling me that as well. And I've been trying to fix it, but I thought I did, but somehow it's still janky. So yeah, I will share it with you, Tarankan. As soon as this is over, before this is over, I'm going to post it here in the comments. So what I was saying, the whole point of mixing is letting the music little by little interact better with each other. It's not trying to change it, because we're dealing with a mix that it's already not a mix. We're dealing with a production that is already following the aesthetics of or not the aesthetics. It's already following the vision of an artist. In this case, myself. I produced this track for this particular exercise. It's me playing the guitar. I composed the track for this show, but the vision since the beginning was inspired by the use of chorus, which is the effect that is on the guitars and basically on everything that is not bass and drums. So it was inspired by that, and I tried to follow this kind of journey-like thing, or as just said before, similar to the sound of Eric Johnson. Manhattan is a great track, and I think it's probably the reason why I ended up having that kind of style of guitar playing for this track. So all of those tracks or all of those references are coming from the 80s, so we're gonna stick to that aesthetic. With that being said, one of the main characteristics of the sound of the 80s is controlled bass, punchy low end, but not overly loud and kind of hi-fi. No wonder why plenty of audiophiles and music fans in general tend to use records from the 80s as some of the highest points in mixing and music production, and audiophile territory as well, sound quality, because those records are produced with such a vision that is amazing. So I'm gonna try to take us to something like that. Now, the hi-hats, now they feel a little bit better. They're not as harsh as before, because that's probably the way I would describe it. The sound being harsh, like shh, but not anymore. Take a listen. And just for sake of conversation, let me take us to a slightly different part because I'm starting to get fed up with that one. I like it because I could even hear the difference in the intensity of the different notes being played by the hi-hats. And by cutting a little bit of the high end, we made it less brittle sounding. But now I feel that we can actually push the sound of our drums a little bit forward. We're gonna make them more exciting. How? Introducing, and this is gonna be very difficult for me to explain it, but whatever. That's what we're for. Introducing parallel mixing. Oh man, I love using my memes. Okay, parallel mixing. It's ridiculously complex, but it is not at the same time. It's very easy to understand once you understand the principles behind it. What are we gonna be doing? We're gonna be sending a copy. We're gonna go bigger because it's important. We're gonna be sending a copy of everything we got from the drums through a different channel, okay? And in that channel, we're gonna be having a compressor, which I already explained how they work, but we're gonna be setting it to a stun, where it's gonna sound awful. But the plan for this is for me to blend the totally squashed, utterly destroyed sounding drum kit with the beautiful, clean, pristine sounding drum kit we got as the core of the sound. Why? Because by doing so, we're going to bring up even more of the excitement. This is also known as New York style of mixing. So, how to do it? Here we go. First and foremost, you can see that my Luna's session, let me get this in order, has already plenty of things going on in here that we haven't touched. Nothing in here has been moved for a good while. There is a good reason for that. Those are my sends. On a mixing desk, you get sends, which stands for copies of wherever that particular channel signal is carrying inside of it, okay? So let's say we get the sound of the bass coming in. We use the send to copy that sound and send it somewhere else, for it to be processed or for it to be output somewhere else. For example, my voice right now and the sound of my mix is using a send for you to hear whatever I say here and wherever I do on my mix while working. Okay? The thing is that what we were fixing at the beginning of this show was basically problems with the routing, the connections, and the sends fitting the software that allows you to hear what I'm saying right now. Okay, so first, you can see that we got these orange areas. Since I like to use colors to understand and have a visual reference to that allows me to understand everything I got in front of me, orange stands for compression applied from the perspective of a parallel mixing. And I got the comp, which stands for drums comp, nasty, which is fun, you'll see. And those are the ones that I got right now on my drums, because I also got my rear, my rear bus that's gonna be used for something else later. But let's apply it to some of the sounds of the drums. You can see that we got this knob. That knob controls the amount of the copy of the sound going to that particular send, okay? So I'm gonna insert or create this connection from the room overhead, stereo room, to that guy, which is bosses, of course. And we're gonna be looking for drums decomp. Look at that. And the next one is gonna go nasty. Now, if we go all the way down on the rest of over here to the rest of the mix, you can see that we got here decomp and nasty. Look at that. How useful that is. But you can see that they are all the way down. Why is that? Because the plan is for these guys to be pushed in to taste while the track is playing, so we can actually just focus on the sound that we're hearing rather than dealing with weird ass wirings. So I'm gonna send everything. Yeah, including the sink, the kitchen sink, to that thing. And we're gonna be bringing them up to taste little by little. First, we're gonna be dealing with the decomp. Since I know that I need to always program this guy, I'm gonna do it right away. Something like this. Let's see what happens. Okay, I just realized that my camera died on me, so I will have to improvise. Let me check. This has been a rough one, but now you'll be able to see me. Yes, look at that. Okay, so we're gonna be having to use this guy for now like this. So let me show you what exactly happened here. Oh, shit, I'm used to that. Okay, what I did was the following. Since we already got this super compressed sound coming from this side, the more I push that in, more excitement and more punchiness comes out of the drums. Okay? Because it's only the drums the ones that are being fed to that particular compressor. If we go back to the screen, you'll see that I'm basically destroying the signal. See what? It sounds like this. Sounds fun and exciting, right? And we're getting plenty of the attack, super tough. That's awesome. So now that you understand, or you have an idea of what kind of sound we're getting out of this, pay attention to the overall excitement and the punchiness of the drums now that I begin to blend these guys in. And for that, let me remove my face because it's kind of useless for now. Here we go. That sounds very good, right? It's very much getting more energy, becoming much more impactful, much more dramatic to a certain degree. And it's also letting the cymbals be a little bit more present in the mix without having to be overbearingly loud. Now, I want to check the sound of this effect, of this technique, but in the later part of the song, where we get a much more busier guitar section, and also we get we swap, or the drummer swaps from hi-hats to cymbals. What's the name of that one? A ride. Let's see. Man, the difference is dramatic, right? It's super clear what's doing, particularly to the sound. I gotta learn to look to this camera now. It's clear what he's doing because he's not only pushing the sound of the attack of the drums themselves, but also he's making the sound of the ride to be present in the mix without me having to push those sounds louder. That's why this kind of compression, this kind of technique, parallel compression, is fantastic. Huge fan, huge proponent of it. It works wonders, but you gotta do it with care. See how much I pushed the fader. Is this guy. That guy is loud, but it's because we're squashing the living stuff out of the drums. Now, to finish this show off, because it's been a rocky one, but it's working. And I'm glad that I've been able to pull it off, and hopefully I haven't been terribly bad at doing this today. Because I'm kind of distracted by those annoyances, but I'm in the game, I think. Now, let's take a look at the sound of the nasty comp. For this, let me confirm what I'm sending to that guy I think I'm gonna send the snare, the kick drum. Yeah, I'm gonna stick to my guns in that one. Yeah, let's send everything. The thing is that the nasty comp, I'm using this, and it's called Devil Lock Audio Level Destroyer. It's inspired totally not by the Level Lock, which was a compressor that was terrible, but it was very good sounding at the same time because it's noisy, it's loud, obnoxious, unruly. It's super, well, it does its own thing. It doesn't give a damn if it sounds correct or not. And that's why we love it. Because it adds that crunchiness, punchiness that we love in music. So I'm going to use it to add an extra layer of excitement. So, how? Since I already know that the sound of my mix is kind of right, when I say mix, I refer to the drums, I'm going to increase the darkness. Because it's gotta be metal. And then we're gonna slightly and gently push the crush and the crunch. You'll see why. And I'm gonna keep it slow because I want to bring out the punch of the cymbals. Not cymbals, the drums, the shells. Here we go. Pay attention to what this thing's gonna do. Damn! It feels like this. The change is insane, right? It's very little what I pushed in, but this trick always works, particularly with this kind of music. When we mix this, when we're mixing something like this, because it adds plenty of attack. You saw that if I push it loud enough, you could even hear the darkness, because it became kind of dull sounding. The mix lost a bit of the hi-fi thing going on. But if I set it in the right position, wow. Very much, a much more exciting record. So let's take a look at the mix and compare it to what we started off with. For those of you who are new to this, I'm going to introduce to you the next one, which is Adapter Made through KB. It's a fantastic plugin that I use on every single one of my projects, on every mix that I'm working on. And it allows me to reference either different tracks or reference the track we're working on at the moment throughout the different stages of it. We can hear the darkness. Yes, exactly, we can. But there is a little bit too much of darkness. We gotta be edgy, but not that edgy. I will look like a vampire. I don't want to make it even more obvious, okay? But I'm gonna be using this thing to reference the mix. So when it's blue, it stands for what we worked on at the moment. If I go orange, it's gonna be showing us the starting point, the very beginning of this mix, okay? So let's hope that this whole session has been productive, and I think it's been. And let's pray for the Emperor's grace in this one. Here we go. Of course, the plan for that section is for it to fade out, okay? But, damn! The difference is huge, don't you think? It's stupidly big. The starting point, as I said in the introduction to this session, was very, bass driven. The bass was way louder than it should. Secondly, the mix felt kind of muffled. Wasn't sounding bad, but wasn't sounding great either. Then I did a little bit of a trick, or I pulled off a trick in front of you. Well, not in front of you, before or while the track was playing. Let me disclose my tricks. While the track was playing, as soon as we press play, I press play once again, I felt that I overdid the nesting. Not by much, because I had it somewhere here. But once the track began playing, wait a second. There. Because we got too much of the energy of the room. Of course, we haven't had any form of special effects to our guitars. Because one of the plans that I got for this one, now that I think about it, is adding delay, repetitions to the sound of the guitars. The ones that are playing it. So, Victor, how is it going? So we can actually make them fill in the gaps, because since the guitar is just playing chords every accent, we can actually get one like bang, 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 bang. Look at that. We're gonna have the collision of the novas. But you get me, right? We can do something like that. Having both of them playing with a delay, but having different delays at different times. Of course, synchronized. So we can get a much more wider sounding stereo field and fill in the gaps between those notes, if that makes sense to you. I'm just foreshadowing because I don't think we're gonna be able to do it right now due to time constraints. But let's summarize what we did, because we did many things. First thing, we went for the throat. We actually worked with the EQ. The mix was kind of sounding too dull, so we added a little bit of shine to it through the use of the EQ. Remember, this EQ is applied to the entirety of the mix. It's the master bus. Then we went over to our mixing desk and we lowered the sound coming out of the bass. It was a little bit too loud. Found the sweet spot. Then we addressed some of the sounds of the snare in relationship with the overheads. And finally, we started to add some of the fantastic and esoteric art of parallel mixing. Huge jump. Today's session was very much monumental. Sadly, it was kind of a rocket one from my technical end, because what happened to my camera, I simply forgot to plug it to the mains. It died out. It was running on batteries, and the battery ran out. It was my mistake. Secondly, at the beginning we got plenty of issues with audio, but you waited and encouraged me to fix it, and I managed to do it, so it worked. And we finally got this success of today. Victor, now you got here at the very end, but you can always watch the rerun as soon as it's over. But as I said before, let me get you the Discord thing, because I don't know why it's been giving me issues, because allegedly I should have the link. I already set it to give me. I already set the link, the invite link, to be fixed. Let me see. No limit. Damn it. Let me generate a new link. Okay. According to this thing, this link that I'm dropping on the chat for this live stream, I'm gonna add it as well to the pinned comment for this live stream once it's over. This is the one that should work. Please confirm before I turn off this thing. Did you get the chance? No, I didn't. I looked them up, but I haven't downloaded the demos. I will probably during the weekend to give them a try. Because speaking of those plugins, I was taking a look at one that got my attention as well. Let me try to remember the name, because we can even discuss it before while somebody can confirm that link works. Let me find it. It's the name of that guy. It's a plugin for guitars, especially specifically speaking for IRs. I found it on. Let me try to remember. I haven't tried yet, because I was also supposed to check the. Here is Bogren Audio. Look, is this thing. Let me check. Wait a second. Oh, wait a second. It's because I got plenty of desktop opens because reasons. Okay, workflow. Here it is. Look, it is this guy. IRDX. I was looking at this bad boy during the weekend because there is a free version, of course, for this guy, and the one that intrigues me is this one, the Core version, because it comes with IRDX Studio and IRDX Core. Differences: IRDX, for those of you who are nerdy enough. Oh, perfect. Thank you, Tarkan. It works. Now you can join the Discord properly. My mistake. I suck at this thing. I'm learning my way around the whole internet guy thing. So please be patient. But what I was saying, if you're interested in getting a good guitar tone out of your recordings, especially at home, this guy. Okay, you have tried them, Victor. I haven't tried them yet. This is the first time. I know the guys because they are the guys behind Fascination Street Studios. It's a very good studio, particularly for mastering. I have worked with them before for mastering purposes. But this thing in particular is very good. Looks good because it's an IR loader. But what truly draws my attention is this thing, IRDX Core. What it's doing, or allegedly does, I have to try it because I've been very busy. I will take a look. I will try the demos of the plugins that you mentioned last week, and alongside this one. Please remind me the name, please, because I have them somewhere on my search history. But if you can remind them as well. Right now that I got you here in the chat, please do, because otherwise it will be faster. But the thing is that this IRDX Core thing looks like it creates the dynamics, not the dynamics. When a guitar speaker is working, any speaker in the world, of course, but guitar speakers in particular, since we tend to play super loud, the guitar amplifiers, they move in a particular way, and that motion creates a little bit of distortion that is added to the sound of the guitar coming out of the cabinet. That's why certain techniques from earlier eras involved cutting with a razor the cone of the what's the name? The speaker in the cabinet. Yeah, look it up. It used to be a common technique. If I recall correctly, it was pioneered by the Rolling Stones and then done by the Beatles and the Who. But I might be wrong in maybe the Who or the Beatles. But I can tell you truly that the freaking Rolling Stones were the first one to do that technique, and I think it was out of Satisfaction, the song, because of the da-da-da-da-da, but I might be mixing and matching different tales. But the thing is this plugin adds that kind of psychoacoustic effect of the speaker moving back and forth and allows you to create or add that extra distortion coming out of that. I haven't tried it yet. It sounds like a great idea, especially for those who are recording or producing music in the box. And nowadays it's very common. For those of you who don't know what in the box stands for making music inside of the computer, the entirety of it, including guitars and drums. Okay, and vocals have to be. Well, nowadays with AI, even vocals can be produced in the box. The sad times we live in. But in the box has become a very common practice, and I have to deal with plenty of clients that send stuff that was fully produced in the box because I mostly work with up-and-coming guys, and some of the problems that I have seen are related to the way that they produce the sound of the guitar in the box. On my technical channel, I will be releasing a video, actually, shameless plug, on which I explain the proper techniques involved in recording DI guitars and getting the best out of your guitar sound using software. So if you are interested, I will of course share the link on all of the different channels that I have running at the moment, so you can watch it. And I will be covering this guy. That's why I want to try this guy first. And if it works for what it seems to be meant to do, I will feature it in that video. But I will take a look at the ones that you said as well. Hey Pineapple, how is it going? MLC1 is great. Is by these guys as well, Victor? I assume that it is, right? MLC. Oh, and it's the one that you shared last week. Yes, you're right. We are actually discussing how to record it, how recording guitar nowadays is done in the computer, and I was sharing this particular software IRDX to the rest of the gang watching, because I'm thinking on on giving a look to this guy to see how much of an improvement it can provide to any form of recording. Ankara and Unmask, yes, those were the ones. Yeah, thank you, Victor. I will take a look at those. So, sadly, Pineapple, we're about to finish. Beth, let me just briefly play back the track again, and I would like to hear your opinions. MLC is by Bargain as well. Okay, I will look at it. What does it do, Victor? While the track's playing. So we were doing this in the morning, Pineapple, because you arrived a little bit too late. Beth, let me show you. We're mixing this track while I explain the moves. This is what we got so far. Yeah, after this few minutes of me speaking with you guys, I realized that the mix is better than expected. It's a little bit more, it's closer to the sound of a finished record, of course, plenty of things to address. But I realized that I did this before. I don't even remember doing it, or of course I did it here live. But just a quick showcase of some of the techniques. Take a look at this. This is an echo. It's creating this kind of repetition, but I'm applying it to the bass. If I recall correctly, let me solo this guy. In a second. Look, Victor, you're right. The track is Pineapple is a track that I produced just for this exercise. We're mixing it. I'm mixing the track while I explain the moves and explaining the different techniques applied during a mixing and production, well, during the mixing process of a song. So, Victor, you're right. There is a little bit of a discrepancy between the volume of the two guitars playing the rhythm, because if I solo them as I did here, listen to them. I see. No, there is an issue. I can hear it. You got a good ear. No, you got a good ear. It's the guitar in the middle. It's because it's kind of something happened with the connection here. Let me explain briefly. I got from their angle. You can see that I actually have an analog rig here. I'm mixing using a hybrid system involving digital stuff and plenty of hardware here. But as soon as I press play once again, I realize, and you're right, Victor, there is something off. I realized that there is an issue. I had this issue yesterday. It seems that one of the connections in the summing area of my rack is a little bit dirty, and at times the connection is not as pristine or as correct as it should. I will address that during the weekend. Listen to the guitars. I think it's quite obvious, especially on this side, the left. Now it got fixed, right? The issue is that it's kind of sketchy, and it's driving me nuts. That's why when you arrived, Victor, there was not a problem with this. But as soon as I press play once again, after a good while of me speaking, damn, we got that issue. But what I was trying to do here, this trick with the bass, I'm adding a little bit of repetition to the sides because the bass is coming from the center of the mix. It's the sound of the mono stuff, okay? And by using this synth, we're copying the sound of the bass, and now we're getting a little bit of the sound of the bass coming from the sides of the speakers. Go ahead, Pineapple. You got a question that it might be a little bit off topic. Go ahead. Sup? How's it going? The shoe deck. While waiting for the question from Pineapple, you look like the guy that probably knows the answer. I don't know. You might. Well, let me hear the question first. Yeah. So, coming back to the whole thing. So, the amplifier that you mentioned, Victor, is the one MLC, right? MLC is it? If I recall correctly, Bargain has plenty of what's the name of that? Plenty of recreations of amplifiers, right? Digital recreations, and one of them, the famous one, is the one that is only controlled by one knob, right? And they got a high-end sounding amp. I think it's inspired by a Diesel or what's the name of that guy? One of those very heavy ass 5150, a PV 5150. Yeah. Do you know the girl that asked what do DJs actually do? No, I don't. But and everyone, I know which one. Okay. I have. Now I know which one. Okay. Yes. That they use the sample of her voice and they do all sorts of remixes. Okay. Yes, I have seen that. Yes. But she makes actually a good point. You are actually not incorrect, my friend. Let me explain. And I got plenty of friends that happen to be DJs, okay? But when I was learning my ways around this whole music production thing, I had some of my, during my upbringing years, some of them were DJs. The thing is that I became friends with them because they understood that what they do is not, they are not playing music. They are playing records and they are mixing them live while the music is going. The thing is that the guys who are producing those tracks using the sample of her voice, those guys are not DJs. They are music producers because they are creating music and then using the sample of her voice as a point of what they do. What are you doing on their control panels? Those control panels, good question, they control the sound of what you hear on the speakers. Let me find a way to explain it here. Okay, look. Usually I have another camera, but we're going to be using this guy. Okay. It's not what a DJ got, but it's similar to what you could see on a DJ desk. This thing is controlling the sounds of my mix. While I can push the faders in and out and actually will be reflected on the computer. What a DJ does, you will have on one hand song A, on the other side you're going to have song B. And in between you have a fader that moves to this side and the other. This is known as a crossfader. And what it does, it will tell which of the sounds coming out of the decks will be the one that is blasted by the speakers. Okay? So a good DJ, what they would do, they will understand first the kind of music, the kind of environment they are working on at the moment. And this is coming from a very good DJ that I know. He told me, our job is not to create music, it's to make sure that the party never ends. Because our job is to keep people dancing and having fun. The moment in which my mix ends, the party's over. Because what they're doing is mixing tracks live, not creating the music on the spot. Some of those guys later became music producers and developed songs that became part of the canon of Western music. Not Western music, but house music. That's the word that I'm looking for. And there are plenty of great composers in that area. The thing is that what most people understand as a DJ is the disc jockey, which comes from using the vinyl records, playing it on deck A, and having another one on deck B, and they will be slowing or speeding them up for them to mix to match in tempo, and then mix one on top of the other without making people realize that they actually stopped the song. It's tricky, but it's not the same as what a musician does. Does that make sense? A friend of mine, I'm teaching a friend of mine how to use those things. I'm not a DJ myself, but I have respect for the craft because I learned from very good DJs. I often work with electronic musicians. I mix electronic music from time to time, but it's produced by actual musicians that are working with synthesizers. Sadly, my camera died, but it's stuff like this. Let me see. This thing's plugged to something. Yeah. Using stuff like this, synthesizers and stuff like that. Okay. So I'm a rock and roller, of course. So I play instruments. This is an instrument, mind you. The thing is that the approach and the understanding of how to take advantage of something like this is very different from what you would do with a guitar. Here, Victor is saying, let me just make sure that this doesn't break anything here. A good DJ takes you on a journey. It makes music selectors, DJs today are the highest paid artists in the world. Yeah, it's because when they know what they're doing, they can keep the whole party going for days and days on end. One of my friends, he has played he usually is part of the roster for the Ultra Festival in Miami. And man, those parties are wild. And it's very tough to keep up with the momentum because if you miss the note, it's the beginning of people gets boring. Yes, some make 5,000 euros per night. I assume that you're in mind guys like DJ Tiesto and David Guetta and all of the big chungus. And yes, they do. I don't necessarily speaking happen to be a fan of their style of big room electronic music because I don't like necessarily speaking electronic music. But I understand how it works. I have appreciation for it when it's done correctly. And the ones that you might be thinking, Calvin Harris, yes, David Guetta, the big names. Those guys produces, not every time, but the songs that you might know are part of a subgenre called big room, which is the super pop-oriented electronic music sound that I think you already have in your head right now. It's not bad music, but it's fun. I'm gonna put it this way. It's not meant to be insightful, inspiring, or anything. It's just to have fun. There are other guys that are much, in my opinion, for example, there is a guy called Matt Lange. I'm gonna drop it here. This guy, I consider him to be a very good electronic music producer. His tracks are usually very well crafted. Sound design is fantastic, very good, and that's one of the things that I like about that style of music. Sound design tends to be very much the core of the concept. Sound design stands for the creation of sounds that will evoke an emotion following a musical track. I don't know if that makes sense to you. I wish I had my other camera because this is kind of annoying because I don't feel that I'm talking to somebody. You get me, right? Because this camera is very, very high. Yeah, trance, exactly. He does more. He's much more in the trance area rather than the big room, and his music is very good. Tends to be very well crafted. It's fantastic, and maybe the reason why I like him is because he's a big fan of King Crimson, the same as I do. Thank you, Pineapple. Because he's saying that my answer was polite, clear, and practical. I like it. Thank you. I hope it made sense because. Discussing these kind of things is technology-wise is kind of daunting when you look at them because I know where the question came from. What do they do with their desks? Yeah, they got huge equipment, and sometimes it looks that they're doing nothing. They do. The thing is that this is my conspiracy theory head. So please get your tinfoil hats on. I think what you see in those huge, the huge light shows like Tomorrowland and all of those amazing looking electronic music festivals I think what they do was pre-recorded, and they're just doing something similar to what you do with rock music in Super Bowl, for example. Uh, because the risk is very high when it comes to the programming of the live show. Having performed in the stages on which everything is following a click, I can tell you that it's very, very much, it's complex. It's complex, and the room for error is tiny. Of course, good bands are well rehearsed and they know what they're doing, so you won't have those kind of accents. Pineapple is saying, I got your stream on my recommended feed. Feed on the right after watching a bit and decided to give you a chance. Thank you, man. Thank you, man. Lately, YouTube has been a little bit more less terrible with me, so it's starting to push a little bit my content. And I'm trying to provide something of value, if you know what I mean. Victor here saying, as a DJ, it was a very good answer. Thank you. It's not easy to keep a party going. No, man. I have huge respect for that. It's tough as balls, man. One of my friends told me that you have to even know how to read the room when it comes, and you can tell me, Victor. When the party, people needs to drink because it's out of the drinks that the bar or the venue is able to pay your salary as a DJ, right? So you need to keep the party going, but let them rest and also spend some money and time at the bar. Because if you always keep them dancing, they're gonna run out of energy in a few hours, in an hour, and the party's over, man. But if you know how to read the room and keep the momentum going and position them and taking them on the journey that they're meant to go through when you are performing as a DJ, wow, that's tough, man. It's very difficult, and I have huge respect for that. I haven't done it myself, but I'm learning. Just because I'm teaching one of my friends. That's a funny story. One of my friends is a lawyer. He couldn't be further from music, but we're friends because he loves music. So at a given point in his life, he decided to learn how to do the electronic music thing because he likes electronic music. So he got himself one of those pioneer monstrosities, big deck. It's a very good deck for himself, and I'm teaching him how to use it. So I'm learning how to do it myself while teaching somebody else. So that puts you in a very particular position, if that makes sense to you. Great, man. Victor is saying you need a lot of talent to pull that off. Great, man. Because it's a completely different set of skills, a different tool set that a DJ has when compared to a musician performing on stage. It's a completely different way to approach to things. Pineapple saying, good luck in your stream. Thank you, man. If you want to become one, I'm out. Sorry. See you around, man. So final comment here saying, you need to read the room. Yeah, you need to bring the energy up and down, know the music, but I know a lot of, but you know a lot, to be honest with you. Agreed. Thank you, man. Thank you. I try to cover as many situations. Thank you, man. It's because, I've been doing this for a good chunk of my time. I started off as a kid. I'm not old by any means, but I started off as a kid. And I've been in several different positions when it comes to the whole music production thing, since starting from performing live, sucking at guitar in front of people, to later suck at mixing music, suck at at producing music. But little by little, I developed the skills. I can tell you one thing. If the best trick that I learned to do is learning how to learn. Spending a good chunk of time and money and effort on education, and particularly on knowledge, rather than education itself. Because there is no point of getting more information in your head if there is no way for you to put it into practice. So it's better for you to invest in knowledge and finding ways to apply that knowledge to something. Get me? So, my free time, I usually spend it learning more music production tricks. Not even music production tricks, because at this point, I'm not going to try to sound like I'm bragging. But at this point, I think I'm in a position in which I have to discover, if that makes sense, rather than learning. Because I understand a good chunk of what is going on, that now my role is to push the boundaries and discover new tricks and share them. When I was 9 years old, I used to buy audio magazines. It's just like that, man. Just like that. As you find something that truly becomes what you should be doing. You know what you should do with your life, man. I think everybody knows. The thing is tricky for people to find it. I don't know why. For me, it has always been quite clear. It has been far from easy, I can tell you that. It's been fun, but super tough, and I have been through all sorts of rough patches in my life. But you get what I'm saying. Just dedication, continuity, and just sticking to your guns. And thank you. I can say I have pretty good ears for sound. No, you do, man, because you surprised me. You detected the problem with the rig over here, even though it's been live streamed, and the live streaming applies to compression and applies to all sort of is downgrading the quality of the sound, but you could hear it. That's great. You do have a good set of ears. Take advantage of them. So my recommendation in that case would be keep not exploiting, but refining what you understand already. Oh, look at that! not that far off from one career from the other, because here Victor is saying that it was a choice between becoming an F1 driver or music for you. Okay, you picked the least exciting. No, I don't know, because I don't know. During my weird ass life, I met a good friend of mine. Her stepdad, he used to be a pilot, man. It's fun. It's fun. If I were good at driving, I would like to learn how to drive that fast. I'm just a granny driving with all the car in the world. I'm not that skilled. But yeah, okay. So sorry for interrupting, Beth. I gotta get ready because I'm about to meet a client in 20 minutes. I let this roll for a little bit longer than I should have, Beth. It was awesome to have to discuss music with you guys, and also keep rolling with the mix. If as some of you arrived later during the live stream, please feel free to rewatch it because we covered plenty of ground today and plenty of techniques that I haven't showed you before. And that are quite not in your face, but are quite impactful in the music. And now that you see how they are done, probably whenever you blast any of your favorite records, you will be able to hear them. I hope. The thing is that I do, but it's because I'm a nerd. Okay. So with that being said, thanks for joining. Thank you for watching. If you haven't, please consider subscribing, because my plan is to keep this thing going. No, I'm not from Spain, but I do speak Spanish. It's one of my languages that I speak. The thing is that I have been to many places in the world, that I have learned several languages now. So my tongue is all over the place. There are moments in which I feel, since I also speak French, at times my accent goes a little bit on the French side of things. Then it goes a little bit on the more Italian side of things, because I also know you're Portuguese. Okay, look at that. So yeah, it's very amusing to see what happens with your brain when you start to learn more languages. It's kind of difficult to keep track, and pronunciation sometimes is easier than others. So I excuse myself if sometimes my pronunciation is not as clear as it should be. But with that said, thanks for joining, thanks for watching, and as usual, the only thing left to remind you is that you should never let anybody tell you what to dream about. And with that said, I will see you when I see you.